You ever have one of those moments where you think, there's no way this is my life right now, but it is? That was me, standing on my own driveway, sirens blaring, red and blue lights ricocheting off my brand new solar panels. Yeah, the ones I fought like hell to put up, while two police cars idled by the curb, and the president of our homeowners association glared at me from across the street like she was the Queen of England herself. I know, you're probably thinking, solar panels? Really? That's what brought the cops to your door. But you don't know Karen Reynolds. Or maybe you do. Everybody's got a Karen in their neighborhood. So picture this. She's standing there in her perfectly pressed slacks, sunglasses low, arms folded tight. That woman looked like she was guarding Fort Knox, not a row of identical beige houses. The first cop walks up to me, trying to sound official, but you can hear the confusion in his voice. Sir, we receive a complaint about unauthorized construction. Do you own this property? Before I could even answer, Karen swoops in like a hawk, shrill as a smoke alarm. He's ruining the neighborhood. Those panels are illegal. They're an eyesore. I swear, her voice could strip paint off a wall. I try to keep my cool. Officers, I assure you, everything I'm doing is legal. In fact, but Karen's got a mouth like a runaway freight train, and she cut me off again. Save it. We'll see what the county says when they shut you down. People like you think you can just do whatever you want. She spat that last part out like it tasted sour. But you know what stung the most? It wasn't even what she said, it was how she said it. Like the idea of me doing anything new or good was some kind of personal attack. Anyway, the officer asked to see my paperwork, so I started for my truck to grab my permits, my contracts, everything. But before I even reached the door, this sleek black car slides into the neighborhood. It's not a cop car, but it has a state emblem on the plates. Karen froze. Her face just dropped. Out steps a man in a gray suit with a badge, clipboard in hand. He walks right up, calm as you please, and says, Mr. Davis, I heard there was some confusion about your installation. Mind if I clear this up? The cop straightened up. Karen's little smirk died right there on her lips. She had no idea what was about to hit her. Let me back up a sec. 6 months before all this chaos, I bought that old place on Maple Grove Lane. Peeling paint, busted driveway, wild grass, the works. But it had potential. I just retired from the State Energy Commission, and what I wanted was simple. Peace, a home of my own, maybe make the place a model for clean, sustainable living. I didn't care about making a statement, I just wanted to do my small part. But I underestimated the HOA. Or rather, I underestimated Karen. See, Karen had this reputation, sharp bob, sharper tongue, and a clipboard heavier than a bag of bricks. She'd find people for the shade of their mailbox, made an old guy take down a homemade windmill because it clashed with the community aesthetic. When I first told her about the solar panels, she gave me this tight-lipped smile. Well, Mr. Davis, I'm afraid those aren't approved by our neighborhood guidelines. I laughed, thinking she was joking. Karen, they're on the roof. You'll barely see them. Her face didn't even twitch. That's not the point. This community has standards. I tried, really tried, to reason with her. These panels will save folks money, help the environment, maybe even bump up property values. She didn't care. If you do it without approval, don't say I didn't warn you. I should have known she wasn't bluffing. So I submitted every form, every photo, every ridiculous document. 10 days, they said it'd take. 2 months later, denied. Panels not consistent with neighborhood appearance. I appealed. Denied again. That's when I decided to do things by the book, the real book. County and state permits, renewable energy initiative, you name it. I had approvals for days. When the installer showed up, it was like a block party for chaos. Drills, hammers, folks peeking through their blinds, some nodding approval, some just nosy. But Karen? She came out in her robe and slippers, phone in hand, yelling, "This is not authorized. You can't do this." I told her, "Morning, Karen. Everything's above board." She stomped back inside, but I could see her making calls. The last panel went up, and that's when I heard the sirens. Karen actually called the cops on me for putting solar panels on my roof. When the police showed up, the workers just sort of paused, not sure if they were about to be hauled off or saving the planet, I guess. And then that black state car pulled in, The man in the suit, clipboard, badge, all official. Mrs. Reynolds, you called about unauthorized construction? Karen practically vibrated with excitement. Yes, he's defacing the neighborhood. The man smiled and looked at me. Actually, Mr. Davis is part of a state pilot project. The commission appreciates his cooperation. Karen's jaw hit the sidewalk. Pilot project? The cop's head swiveled. The state man turned to Karen, stone cold. You might want to check your bylaws before you file false reports. And you could actually see the color drain from her face. But that was just round one. The next day, the gossip hit harder than a hailstorm. Everyone was talking, whispering, staring, trying to figure out what happened. That night, I found a bright yellow envelope taped to my front door. Immediate fine, $1,000. Remove panels in 7 days or face legal action. Signed, yep, Karen Reynolds. You can't make this up. The next morning, as I walked past the neighbors, some just nodded. Others turned away. I heard Mrs. Thompson whisper, he's the one who made Karen call the police. Like I was some kind of criminal mastermind. Back at home, the man from the state, Richard Clark, showed up in my driveway. Morning, Alan, he said real warm. Karen's not letting up, I see. He looked over the letter, shook his head. You're completely in the right. HOA rules don't override state mandates. Maybe it's time to educate your neighbors. He told me, with a little smile, that Maple Grove Lane had actually been picked for a statewide solar initiative, and I was the first. That meant Karen's crusade was basically bringing more eyes and more solar panels to the neighborhood. But Karen wasn't finished. She showed up with 2 HOA board members, scowling like she'd swallowed a lemon. You've embarrassed us. People are calling us the shiny roof street. Before I could answer, Richard stepped out of my house, badge on display. State Energy Commission. Mr. Davis is participating in a government pilot. Any further harassment could be considered obstruction. Karen's face, priceless. Her board members scattered, and she stormed away, muttering about lawyers. From then on, the fines came in waves. Grass too tall, porch light too bright, mailbox too square, you name it. But instead of fighting, I smiled, waved, helped neighbors with trash bins, fixed sprinklers, you name it. Mrs. Lopez even said, maybe I need solar panels. My bill doubled last month. And that's when it hit me. Karen could push rules, but I could push goodwill. But the real storm was coming. One Friday afternoon, I heard metal banging on my roof. 2 HOA workers were up there, removing my panels. I ran out, shouting, what do you think you're doing? Karen told us to. She was out front, filming with her phone. You voted? I asked, baffled. You don't have that authority. The workers hesitated. I called Richard. They're pulling my panels. Stay calm, he said. I'm on my way. 5 minutes later, Richard's black car screeches to a stop. This time he's got 2 more state officials with him. Everyone off that roof now. Karen tried to protest, but Richard cut her off. Mrs. Reynolds, removing or tampering with state-regulated equipment is a criminal offense. You just crossed the line. Suddenly, there was this loud crack. A worker slipped, nearly falling off the roof. Karen's phone hit the ground. Everyone froze. Instinct took over. I scrambled the ladder back up, steadied it, and the guy climbed down, shaking like a leaf. Karen was white as a ghost. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt. Richard got the whole thing documented, took photos, called it in. Karen just stood there, finally looking human. The paramedics cleared the worker, just a bruised shoulder, thank God, but the neighborhood saw the whole thing. Karen was now the talk of the town, but not in the way she liked. Of course, the next HOA newsletter claimed I had hired unlicensed workers and caused an accident. Karen's name was nowhere in the story. Classic, right? But that day, Richard brought even bigger news. The state had decided, thanks to all the publicity, that every house in Maple Grove Lane would get free solar panels. HOA approval no longer applies, he said, grinning. You should have seen Karen's face. She tried to talk to me that night, almost apologizing, and for the first time, I felt kind of sorry for her. The board expects me to keep things perfect, she said, but sometimes I wish I could just let go. For a second, she seemed less like a villain and more like a person trapped by her own rules. But the saga didn't end there. Someone forged Karen's signature to file an injunction blocking the state project. Turned out to be Gerald Myers, the developer who still owned vacant land and wanted to stop renewable energy from threatening his profits. Then the threats escalated. Black envelopes, warnings carved into my garage door, a neighborhood-wide blackout. Me and Karen, now unlikely allies, both got targeted. Tires slashed, mysterious figures lurking at night. And finally, a string of coordinated attacks meant to shut us down and scare the whole street into submission. And it nearly worked. They set fire to the fuel reserve behind the development, flames racing toward our homes. I grabbed Bruno, my dog, rushed door to door with Karen, evacuating everyone. We barely made it out. But in that chaos, the community finally came together. People carried boxes for each other, kids comforted each other. Even Karen's clipboard got used for good. Richard and the state police got Myers on security footage, tied him to the arson, the threats, all of it. The grid keepers, the extremist group behind the attacks, fell apart. The evidence was undeniable. In the end, my house got rebuilt. Maple Grove Lane became the first all-solar neighborhood in the county, state-funded, fire-resistant panels and all. Karen and I even got little gold sun pin from the commission for civic courage under fire. She hung hers next to her old HOA plaque. And you know what? For once, rules didn't matter. People did. I'll never forget the feeling that first night when the new solar lights flicked on, one by one, down the street. The neighborhood glowed. Neighbors cheered. Kids danced in the golden light. Karen smiled, really smiled for the first time since I'd known her. Maybe we'll never be the same again. But maybe that's a good thing. Grace, forgiveness, starting over. That's what made us strong. And as for justice, I still see folks online debating who was right, who was wrong. Was Karen a monster or just misunderstood? Should HOAs have the power to dictate how we live? Or should communities be built on something better? You tell me. Drop your thoughts below. Share your own stories of neighborhood drama, injustice, or the time you took a stand for what's right. Because in the end, it's not about solar panels or rules. It's about finding the light together, even when the darkness tries to swallow you whole. So, where are you watching from? And what would you have done?